A group of Megalodon cruised through the water 9 million years ago. Near them, a massive leviathan, over 50 feet long, swims past. Its large caudal fin allows for propulsion, with up and down movements created by powerful muscles. These curious sharks are circling around the colossal beast, attempting an ambush. The majestic beast swims carefully, with the Megalodon appearing to be a considerable threat. They continue to intimidate the beast, swimming closer and closer. A bigger Megalodon proves to be a menace. They close in, and the massive whale swims past, with the Megalodon tugging and fumbling about. The Leviathan is attempting to escape and bites a rabble Megalodon with its 1.2 foot long teeth, the largest of any known animal. The Megalodon falls to its death. However, a large Megalodon bites the unlucky giant, with its blood spilling on the ancient waters. Its strong jaws break through the chest cavity and puncture the heart and lungs. The great beast now provides a meal to smaller Megalodon. Hi, welcome to Enchiridion. I am honored to share with you these facts on Megalodon. Megalodon was a species of shark that lived roughly 23 to 3.6 million years ago, during the Early Miocene to the Zanclean of the Pliocene. While regarded as one of the largest and most powerful predators to have ever lived, Megalodon is only known from fragmentary remains, and its appearance and maximum size are uncertain. Scientists differ on whether it would have more closely resembled a stockier version of the great white shark, the whale shark, also known as Rhincodon typus, the basking shark, or Cetorhinus maximus, or the sand tiger shark, Carcharias taurus. Most estimates of Megalodon's size extrapolate from teeth, with maximum length estimates up to 46 to 67 feet, or 14 to 20.3 meters, and average length estimates of 34 feet, or 10.5 meters. Estimates suggest their large jaws could exert a bite force of up to 108,500 to 182,200 newtons, or 24,400 to 41,000 pounds of force. Their teeth were thick and robust, built for grabbing prey and breaking bone. Megalodon probably had a major impact on the structure of marine communities. The fossil record indicates that it had a cosmopolitan distribution, meaning it dwelled worldwide. It probably targeted large prey like seals, whales, and sea turtles. Juveniles inhabited warm coastal waters and fed on fish and small whales. Unlike the great white, which attacks from the soft underside, Megalodon probably used its strong jaws to break through the chest cavity and puncture the heart and lungs of its prey. The animal faced competition from whale-eating cetaceans such as Leviathan and other macroraptorial sperm whales, and possibly smaller ancestral killer whales. As the shark preferred warmer waters, it is thought that oceanic cooling associated with the onset of the ice ages, coupled with the lowering of sea levels and resulting loss of suitable nursery areas, may have also contributed to its decline. A reduction in the diversity of baleen whales and a shift in their distribution toward polar regions may have reduced Megalodon's primary food source. The shark's extinction coincides with a trend of gigantism in baleen whales. Before we delve into its biology and appearance, let us explore its naming. According to Renaissance accounts, gigantic triangular fossil teeth, often found embedded in rocky formations, were once believed to be the petrified tongues or glossopetrae of dragons and snakes. This interpretation was corrected in 1667 by Danish naturalist Nicholas Steno, who recognized them as shark teeth and famously produced a depiction of a shark's head bearing such teeth. He described his findings in the book The Head of a Shark Dissected, which also had an illustration of a megalodon tooth. Swiss naturalist Louis Agassiz gave this shark its initial scientific name, Carcharodon megalodon, in his 1843 work Recherches sur les poissons fossils, based on tooth remains. English paleontologist Edward Charlesworth, in his 1837 paper, used the name Carcharias megalodon, while citing Agassiz as the author, indication that Agassiz described the species prior to 1843. English paleontologist Charles Davies Sherborne, in 1928, listed an 1835 series of articles by Agassiz as the first scientific description of the shark. The specific name Megalodon translates to big tooth, from ancient Greek megas, meaning big or mighty, and odus, meaning tooth. The teeth of Megalodon are morphologically similar to those of the great white shark, also known as Carcharodon carcharias, and on the basis of this observation, Agassiz assigned Megalodon to the genus Carcharodon. Though Megalodon is an informal name for the shark, it is also often informally dubbed the giant white shark, the megatooth shark, the big-tooth shark, or simply Meg. There was one apparent description of the shark in 1881, classifying it as Mancini. Now that we have learned a brief history of its naming, let us now delve into its biology and appearance. One interpretation of how Megalodon appeared was that it was a robust-looking shark and may have had a similar build to the great white shark. The jaws may have been blunter and wider than the great white, and the fins would also have been similar in shape, though thicker due to its size. It may have had a pig-eyed appearance, in that it had small, deep-set eyes. Another interpretation is that Megalodon bore a similarity to the whale shark, or Rhincodon typus, or the basking shark, also known as Cetorhinus maximus. The tail fin would have been crescent-shaped, and the anal fin and second dorsal fin would have been small, and there would have been a caudal keel present on either side of the tail fin on the caudal peduncle. This build is common in other large aquatic animals like whales, tuna, and other sharks, in order to reduce drag while swimming. The head shape can vary between species, as most of the drag-reducing adaptations are toward the tail end of the animal. Since Carcharocles is derived from Otodus, and the two had teeth that bear a close similarity to those of the sand tiger shark, or Carcharias taurus, Megalodon may have had a build more similar to the sand tiger shark than to other sharks. This is unlikely since the sand tiger shark is a carangiform swimmer, which requires faster movement of the tail for propulsion through the water than the great white shark, a thunniform swimmer. Now that we have learned about its appearance, let us delve into its internal anatomy. Megalodon is represented in the fossil record by teeth, vertebral centra, and coprolites. As with all sharks, the skeleton of Megalodon was formed of cartilage rather than bone. Consequently, most fossil specimens are poorly preserved. To support its large dentition, the jaws of Megalodon would have been more massive, stouter, and more strongly developed than those of the great white, which has a comparatively gracile dentition. Its condocranium, the cartilaginous skull, would have had a blockier and more robust appearance than that of the great white. Its fins were proportional to its larger size. Some fossil vertebrae have been found. The most notable example is a partially preserved vertebral column of a single specimen, excavated in the Antwerp Basin in Belgium in 1926. It comprises 150 vertebral centra, with the centra ranging from 2.2 inches or 55 millimeters to 6 inches or 155 millimeters in diameter. The shark's vertebrae may have gotten bigger, and scrutiny of the specimen revealed that it had a higher vertebral count than specimens of any known shark, possibly over 200 centra. Only the great white approached it. Another partially preserved vertebral column of a megalodon was excavated from the Gram Formation in Denmark in 1983, which comprises 20 vertebral centra, with the centra ranging from 4 inches or 100 millimeters to 9 inches or 230 millimeters in diameter. The coprolite remains of Megalodon are spiral-shaped, indicating that the shark may have had a spiral valve, a corkscrew-shaped portion of the lower intestines, similar to extant lamniform sharks. Miocene coprolite remains were discovered in Beaufort County, South Carolina, with one measuring 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters. Gottfried and colleagues reconstructed the entire skeleton of Megalodon, which was later put on display at the Calvert Marine Museum in the United States and the Isiko South African Museum. The reconstruction is 37 feet or 11.3 meters long and represents a mature male, based on the ontogenic changes a great white experiences over the course of its life. You might have been wondering, how big could Megalodon get? What would have been its size? Ever since the teeth of Megalodon were unearthed and classified as those of sharks, scientists and the public alike asked, how big was the shark? However, due to fragmentary remains, there have been many contradictory size estimates for Megalodon, as they can only be drawn from fossil teeth and vertebrae. Therefore, paleontologists and ichthyologists have to work with what they have, which in this case is the teeth. The great white shark has been the basis of reconstruction and size estimation, as it is regarded as the best analog to Megalodon. Several total length estimation methods have been produced from comparing Megalodon teeth and vertebrae to those of the great white. Megalodon size estimates vary depending on the method used, with maximum total length estimates from 47 to 67 feet or 14.2 to 20.3 meters. I will only be talking about the more recent size estimates. A 2015 study estimated the average total body length at 34 feet or 10.5 meters, calculated from 544 Megalodon teeth found throughout geological time and geography, including adults and juveniles. In comparison, large great white sharks are typically around 20 feet or 6 meters in length, with a few contentious reports suggesting larger sizes. The whale shark is the largest living fish, with one large female reported with a precaudal length of 49 feet or 15 meters and an estimated total length of 62 feet or 18.8 meters. It is possible that different populations of Megalodon around the globe had different body sizes and behaviors due to diverse ecological pressures. Megalodon is thought to have been the largest macropredatory shark that ever lived. In 2019, Shimada revisited the size of Megalodon and the scourge using non-anterior teeth for estimations, noting that the exact position of isolated non-anterior teeth is difficult to identify. Shimada provided maximum total length estimates using the largest anterior teeth available in museums. The tooth with the tallest crown height known to Shimada, NSM PB 19896, produced a total length estimate of 47 feet or 14.2 meters. The tooth with the tallest total height, FM&H PF 11306, was reported at 6.6 inches or 16.8 centimeters. Nonetheless, Shimada remeasured the tooth and found it actually measured 6.4 inches or 16.2 centimeters. Using the total height tooth regression equation proposed by Gottfried and colleagues produced an estimate of 50 feet or 15.3 meters long. A 2020 study looking at the dimensions of the modern great white, mako, and lamna sharks suggested a 52 feet or 16 meter Megalodon would have had a 15.3 feet or 4.65 meter long head, 4 feet 8 inch or 1.41 meter tall gill slits, a 5 feet 4 inch or 1.62 meter tall dorsal fin, 10 feet 1 inch or 3.08 meter long pectoral fins, and a 12 feet 8 inch or 3.85 meter tall tail fin. In 2021, Victor J. Paris, Ronnie M. Leder, and Teddy Badat proposed a method of estimating the total length of Megalodon from the sum of the tooth crown widths. Using more complete Megalodon dentitions, they reconstructed the dental formula and made comparisons to living sharks. The researchers noted that the 2002 Shimada crown height equations produce wildly varying results for different teeth belonging to the same shark, casting doubt on some of the conclusions of previous studies using that method. Using the largest tooth available to the authors, GHC6, with a crown width of 5.2 inches or 13.3 centimeters, they estimated a total length between 57 to 79 feet or 17.4 to 24.2 meters, with a mean of 67 feet or 20.3 meters. There are anecdotal reports of teeth larger than those found in museum collections. Gordon Hubble from Gainesville, Florida, has an upper anterior Megalodon tooth whose maximum height is 7.25 inches or 18.4 centimeters, one of the largest known tooth specimens from the shark. In addition, a 9 by 11 feet or 2.7 by 3.4 meter Megalodon jaw reconstruction developed by fossil hunter Vito Bertucci has a tooth whose maximum height is reportedly over 7 inches or 18 centimeters. Climatic factors and the abundance of large prey items may have played a role in its size, and it may have also been influenced by the evolution of regional endothermy or mesothermy, which would have increased its metabolic rate and swimming speed. The otodontid sharks have been considered to have been ectotherms, so on that basis, Megalodon would have been ectothermic. However, the largest contemporary ectothermic sharks, like the whale shark, are filter feeders, while lamnids are now known to be regional endotherms, implying some metabolic correlations with a predatory lifestyle. these considerations, as well as tooth oxygen isotopic data, and the need for higher burst swimming speeds in macropredators of endothermic prey than ectothermy would allow, implied that odontids, including Megalodon, were probably regional endotherms. In 2020, Shimada and colleagues suggested large size was instead due to intrauterine cannibalism, where the larger fetus eats the smaller fetus, resulting in progressively larger and larger fetuses, requiring the mother to attain even greater size, as well as caloric requirements which would have promoted endothermy. Males would have needed to keep up with female size in order to still effectively copulate, which probably involved latching onto the female with claspers, like modern cartilaginous fish. Now, what about its weight? Mature male Megalodon may have had a body mass of 12.6 to 33.9 metric tons, or 13.9 to 37.4 short tons, and mature females may have been 27.4 to 59.4 metric tons, or 30.2 to 65.5 short tons, assuming that males could range in length from 34 to 47 feet, or 10.5 to 14.3 meters, and females 44 to 56 feet, or 13.3 to 17 meters. Estimates suggest that a Megalodon about 52 feet, or 16 meters long, weighs up to 53 short tons, or 48 metric tons, 56 feet, or 17 meters long, weighs up to 65 short tons, or 59 metric tons, and 67 feet, or 20.3 meters long, which is the maximum length, weighs up to 114 short tons, or 103 metric tons. A 2015 study linking shark size and typical swimming speed estimated that Megalodon would have typically swum at 11 miles, or 18 kilometers per hour, assuming that its body mass was typically 48 metric tons, or 53 short tons, which is consistent with other aquatic creatures of its size like the fin whale, also known as Balaenoptera physalis, which typically cruises at speeds of 9 to 13.4 miles, or 14.5 to 21.5 kilometers per hour. Now that we know about Megalodon's size and weight, how powerful was its bite force? The most common fossils of Megalodon are its teeth. Diagnostic traits include a triangular shape, robust structure, large size, fine serrations, a lack of lateral denticles, and a visible B-shaped neck, where the root meets the crown. The tooth met the jaw at a steep angle, similar to the great white shark. The tooth was anchored by connective tissue fibers, and the roughness of the base may have added to mechanical strength. The lingual side of the tooth, the part facing the tongue, was convex, and the labial side, the other side of the tooth, was slightly convex or flat. The anterior teeth were almost perpendicular to the jaw and symmetrical, whereas the posterior teeth were slanted and asymmetrical. Megalodon teeth can measure over 7.1 inches, or 180 millimeters in slant height or diagonal length, and are the largest of any known shark species, implying it was the largest of all macropredatory sharks. In 1989, a nearly complete set of Megalodon teeth was discovered in Saitama, Japan. Another nearly complete associated Megalodon dentition was excavated from the Yorktown formations in the United States and served as the basis of a jaw reconstruction of Megalodon at the National Museum of Natural History. Based on these discoveries, an artificial dental formula was put together for Megalodon in 1996. Megalodon had 4 kinds of teeth in its jaws: anterior, intermediate, lateral, and posterior. Megalodon's intermediate tooth technically appears to be an upper anterior and is termed as A3 because it is fairly symmetrical and does not point towards the side of the tooth toward the midline of the jaws where the left and right jaws meet, or mesially. Megalodon had a very robust dentition and had over 250 teeth in its jaws, spanning 5 rows. It is possible that large Megalodon individuals had jaws spanning roughly 6.6 feet or 2 meters across. The teeth were also serrated, which would have improved efficiency in cutting through flesh or bone. The shark may have been able to open its mouth to a 75-degree angle, though a reconstruction at the USNM approximates an 100-degree angle. In 2008, a team of scientists led by Stephen Rowe conducted an experiment to determine the bite force of the great white shark, using an 8.2 feet or 2.5 meter long specimen, and then isometrically scaled the results for its maximum size and the conservative minimum and maximum body mass of Megalodon. They placed Megalodon's bite force between 108,514 to 182,201 newtons, or 24,395 to 40,960 pounds of force in a posterior bite, compared to 18,216 newtons, or 4,095 pounds of bite force for the largest confirmed great white shark, and 7,400 newtons, or 1,700 pounds of force for the placoderm fish Dunkleosteus. This means that even the lower estimates for Megalodon's bite force still give it a much higher bite force than the ferocious placoderm Dunkleosteus, and even higher than the mighty Tyrannosaurus rex. Another thing to be considered is the fact that Megalodon probably shaked its head side to side like other sharks with a similar dentition. This meant that the actual forces subjected to the unfortunate prey of Megalodon were likely even greater. In 2021, Antonio Bellel and Umberto Ferron used finite element analysis modeling to examine the stress distribution of 3 types of Megalodon teeth and closely related megatoothed species when exposed to anterior and lateral forces, with lateral forces generated when a shark shakes its head to tear through flesh. The resulting simulations identified higher levels of stress in Megalodon teeth under lateral force loads compared to its precursor species like Otodus obliquus and Otodus angustidens when tooth size was removed as a factor. This suggests that Megalodon teeth were of a different functional significance than previously expected, challenging prior interpretations that Megalodon's dental morphology was primarily driven by a dietary shift towards marine mammals. Instead, the authors proposed that it was a byproduct of an increase in body size caused by heterochromic selection. So, how would Megalodon have developed throughout its lifetime? How did it grow and reproduce? In 2021, Shimada and colleagues calculated the growth rate of an approximately 30 feet or 9.2 meter long individual based on presumably annual growth rings on 3 of its vertebrae. They estimated the individual died at 46 years of age, with a growth rate of 6.3 inches or 16 centimeters per year, and a length of 6 feet 7 inches or 2 meters at birth. For a 49 feet or 15 meter long individual, which they considered to be the maximum size attainable, this would equate to a lifespan of 88 to 100 years. Megalodon, like contemporaneous sharks, made use of nursery areas to birth their young in, specifically warm water coastal environments with large amounts of food and protection from predators. Nursery sites were identified in the Gatun Formation of Panama, the Colbert Formation of Maryland, Banco de Concepcion in the Canary Islands, and the Bone Valley Formation of Florida. Given that all extant lamniform sharks give birth to live young, this is believed to have been true of Megalodon as well. Infant Megalodons were around 11 feet or 3.5 meters at their smallest, and the pups were vulnerable to predation by other shark species, such as the great hammerhead shark, also known as Sphyrna mocarin, and the snaggletooth shark, or Hemipristi cera. Their dietary preferences display an ontogenic shift. Young Megalodon commonly preyed on fish, sea turtles, dugongs, and small cetaceans. Mature Megalodon moved to offshore areas and consumed large cetaceans. An exceptional case in the fossil record suggests that juvenile Megalodon may have occasionally attacked much larger balanopterid whales. 3 tooth marks, apparently from a 13 to 23 feet or 4 to 7 meter long Pliocene shark, were found on a rib from an ancestral blue or humpback whale that showed evidence of subsequent healing, which is suspected to have been inflicted by a juvenile Megalodon. We have explored Megalodon's growth and reproduction, so what about its range and habitat? In which areas did Megalodon dwell? Well, Megalodon had a cosmopolitan distribution, meaning that it existed worldwide. Its fossils have been excavated from many parts of the world, including Europe, Africa, the Americas, and Australia. It most commonly occurred in subtropical to temperate latitudes. It has been found at latitudes up to 55 degrees north. Its inferred tolerated temperature range was 34 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, or 1 to 24 degrees Celsius. It arguably had the capacity to endure such low temperatures due to mesothermy, the physiological capability of large sharks to conserve metabolic heat by maintaining a higher body temperature than the surrounding water. Megalodon inhabited a wide range of marine environments, including shallow coastal waters, areas of coastal upwelling, swampy coastal lagoons, sandy littorals, and offshore deep water environments, and exhibited a transient lifestyle. Adult Megalodon were not abundant in shallow water environments, and mostly inhabited offshore areas. Megalodon may have moved between coastal and oceanic waters, particularly in different stages of its life cycle. Fossil remains show a trend for specimens to be larger on average in the southern hemisphere than in the northern, with mean lengths of 38 and 31 feet, or 11.6 and 9.6 meters respectively, and also larger in the Pacific than the Atlantic, with mean lengths of 36 and 31 feet, or 10.9 and 9.5 meters respectively. They do not suggest any trend of changing body size with absolute latitude, or of change in size over time, although the Carcharocles lineage in general is thought to display a trend of increasing size over time. The overall modal length has been estimated at 34 feet or 10.5 meters, with the length distribution skewed towards larger individuals, suggesting an ecological or competitive advantage for larger body size. Megalodon had a global distribution, and fossils of the shark have been found in many places around the world, bordering all oceans of the Neogene. Now that we have learned about the range and habitat of Megalodon, it is essential to understand its evolution and classification. While the earliest Megalodon remains have been reported from the late Oligocene, around 28 million years ago, there is disagreement as to when it appeared. with dates ranging to as young as 16 million years ago. It has been thought that Megalodon became extinct around the end of the Pliocene, about 2.6 million years ago. Claims of Pleistocene Megalodon teeth younger than 2.6 million years old are considered unreliable. A 2019 assessment moves the extinction date back to earlier in the Pliocene, 3.6 million years ago. Megalodon is now considered to be a member of the family Odontoceti, genus Otodus, which diverged from the great white shark during the early Cretaceous, as opposed to its prior classification into Lamnidae, genus Carcharodon. Megalodon's classification into Carcharodon was, as mentioned, due to dental similarity with the great white shark. Yet most scientists currently believe that such similarity is due to convergent evolution. In this model, the great white shark is more closely related to the extinct broad-toothed mako, or Asurus hestalis, than to Megalodon, as evidenced by more similar dentition in those two sharks. Megalodon teeth have much finer serrations than great white shark teeth. The great white shark is more closely related to the mako shark, or Asurus, with a common ancestor around 4 million years ago. Proponents of the former model, wherein Megalodon and the great white shark are more closely related, argue that the differences between their dentition are minute and obscure. The genus Carcharocles currently has 4 species: Carcharocles auriculatus, Angustidens, Chubutensis, and Megalodon. The evolution of this lineage is characterized by the increase of serrations, the widening of the crown, the development of a more triangular shape, and the disappearance of the lateral cusps. The evolution in tooth morphology reflects a shift in predation tactics from a tearing grasping bite to a cutting bite, likely reflecting a shift in prey choice from fish to cetaceans. Lateral cusplets were finally lost in a gradual process that took roughly 12 million years during the transition between Carcharocles chubutensis and Carcharocles megalodon. The genus was proposed by S. Jordan and H. Hannibal in 1923 to contain Carcharocles auriculatus. In the 1980s, Megalodon was assigned to Carcharocles. Prior to this, in 1960, the genus Procarcharodon was erected by French ichthyologist Edgar Cassier, which included those 4 sharks and was considered separate from the great white shark. It is now considered a junior synonym of Carcharocles. The genus Paleocarcharodon was erected alongside Procarcharodon to represent the beginning of the lineage, and in the model wherein Megalodon and the great white shark are closely related, their last common ancestor. It is believed to be an evolutionary dead end, and unrelated to the Carcharocles sharks by authors who reject that model. Another model of the evolution of this genus, also proposed by Cassier in 1960, is the direct ancestor of the Carcharocles is the shark Otodus obliquus, which lived from the Paleocene through the Miocene epochs, 60 to 13 million years ago. The genus Otodus is ultimately derived from Credolamna, a shark from the Cretaceous period. In this model, Otodus obliquus evolved into Otodus axioticus, which evolved into Carcharocles auriculatus, and then into Carcharocles angustidens, and then into Carcharocles chubutensis, and finally into Carcharocles megalodon. Another paradigm of the evolution of Carcharocles, proposed in 2001 by paleontologist Michael Benton, is that the 3 other species are actually a single species of shark that gradually changed over time between the Paleocene and the Pliocene, making it a chronospecies. Some authors suggest that Carcharocles arbiculatus, angustidens, and chubutensis should be classified as a single species in the genus Otodus, leaving Carcharocles megalodon the sole member of Carcharocles. The genus Carcharocles may be invalid, and the shark may actually belong in the genus Otodus, making it Otodus megalodon. A 1974 study on Paleogene sharks by Henry Capetta erected the subgenus Megacelicus, classifying the shark as Otodus or Megacelicus megalodon, along with Otodus or Megacelicus chubutensis. A 2006 review of Chondrichthyes elevated Megacelicus to a genus and classified the sharks Megacelicus megalodon and Megacelicus chubutensis. The discovery of fossils assigned to the genus Megalodon in 2016 led to a re-evaluation of Otodus, which concluded that it is paraphyletic. That is, it consists of a last common ancestor, but it does not include all of its descendants. The inclusion of the Carcharocles sharks in Otodus would make it monophyletic, with the sister clade being Megalodon. The cladogram here represents the hypothetical relationships between Megalodon and other sharks, including the great white shark. This was modified from Shimada and colleagues in 2016, Ehret and colleagues in 2009, and the findings of Syberson and colleagues in 2013. Synonyms are numerous, from the genus Carcharias to Carcharocles to Megacelicus to Carcharodon to Otodus to Selake. Megalodon belongs to the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Chordata, the class Chondrichthyes, the order Lamniformes, the family Odontidea, the genus Otodus, and the type species Otodus megalodon. Given its distribution, size, and adaptations, Megalodon would have been a terrifying beast, so which were its feeding strategies? Sharks often employ complex hunting strategies to engage large prey animals. Great white shark hunting strategies may be similar to how Megalodon hunted its large prey. Megalodon bite marks on whale fossils suggest that it employed different hunting strategies against large prey than the great white shark. One particular specimen, the remains of a 30 feet or 9 meter long undescribed Miocene baleen whale, has provided the first opportunity to quantitatively analyze its attack behavior. Unlike great whites, which target the underbelly of their prey, Megalodon probably targeted the heart and lungs, with their thick teeth adapted for biting through tough bone, as indicated by bite marks inflicted to the ribcage and other tough bony areas on whale remains. Furthermore, attack patterns could differ for prey of different sizes. In other words, fossil remains of some small cetaceans, for instance Cetorhinus, suggest that they were rammed with great force from below before being killed and eaten, based on compression fractures. There is also evidence that a possible separate hunting strategy existed for attacking raptorial sperm whales. A tooth belonging to an undetermined 13-foot or 4-meter physeteroid, closely resembling those of Acrophyseter, discovered in the Neutron Aurora phosphate mine in North Carolina, suggests that a Megalodon or Otodus chubutensis may have aimed for the head of the sperm whale in order to inflict a fatal bite, the resulting attack leaving distinctive bite marks on the tooth. While scavenging behavior cannot be ruled out as a possibility, the placement of the bite marks is more consistent with predatory attacks than feeding by scavenging, as the jaw is not a particularly nutritious area for a shark to feed or focus on. The fact that the bite marks were found on the tooth's roots further suggests that the shark broke the whale's jaw during the bite, suggesting the bite was extremely powerful. The fossil is also notable as it stands as the first known instance of an antagonistic interaction between a sperm whale and an ododontid shark recorded in the fossil record. During the Pliocene, larger cetaceans appeared. Megalodon apparently further refined its hunting strategies to cope with these large whales. Numerous fossilized flipper bones and tail vertebrae of large whales from the Pliocene have been found with Megalodon bite marks, suggesting that Megalodon would immobilize a large whale before killing and feeding on it. Megalodon would have employed these feeding strategies on unfortunate prey, but which prey did Megalodon eat? What relationships did it have? Though sharks are typically opportunistic feeders, Megalodon's great size, high-speed swimming capability, and powerful jaws, coupled with an impressive feeding apparatus, made it an apex predator capable of consuming a broad spectrum of animals. Odds are, it is one of the most powerful predators to have existed. A study focusing on calcium isotopes of extinct and extant elasmobranch sharks and rays revealed that Megalodon fed at a higher trophic level than the contemporaneous great white shark. That is to say, it was higher up in the food chain. Fossil evidence indicates that Megalodon preyed upon a range of cetacean species like dolphins, small whales, cetothares, squalodontids or sharks with dolphins, sperm whales, bowhead whales, and rorquals. In addition to this, they also targeted seals, sirenians, and sea turtles. The shark was an opportunist and a piscivore, and it would have also gone after smaller fish and other sharks. Various excavations have revealed Megalodon teeth lying close to the chewed remains of whales and sometimes in direct association with them. The feeding ecology of Megalodon appears to have varied with age and between sites, like the modern great white. It is plausible that the adult Megalodon population off the coast of Peru targeted primarily cetothere whales 8.2 to 23 feet or 2.5 to 7 meters long and other prey smaller than themselves, rather than large whales in their same size class. Meanwhile, juveniles likely had a diet that consisted more of fish. Nonetheless, this ancient environment would have still been challenging, even for Megalodon. Which competition did Megalodon face, and how did it thrive? Megalodon faced a highly competitive environment. Its position at the top of the food chain probably had a significant impact on the structure of the marine communities it inhabited. Fossil evidence indicates a correlation between Megalodon and the emergence and diversification of cetaceans and other marine mammals. Juvenile Megalodon preferred habitats where small cetaceans were abundant, and adult Megalodon preferred habitats where large cetaceans were abundant. Such preferences may have possibly developed shortly after they appeared in the Oligocene. Megalodon were contemporaneous with whale-eating toothed whales, particularly macroraptorial sperm whales and squalodontids, which were also probably among the era's apex predators and provided competition. Some attained colossal sizes like Leviathan, estimated between 44 and 57 feet, or 13.5 to 17.5 meters in length. Fossilized teeth of an undetermined species like Physeteroids from Lee Creek Mine, North Carolina, indicate it had a maximum body length of 26.2 to 32.8 feet, or 8 to 10 meters, and a maximum lifespan of about 25 years. This diverges from similarly sized modern killer whales that live to 65 years, suggesting that unlike killer whales, which are apex predators, these Physeteroids were subject to predation from larger species like Megalodon or Leviathan. By the late Miocene, roughly 11 million years ago, Macroraptorials experienced a significant decline in abundance and diversity. Other species may have filled this niche in the Pliocene, like the fossil killer whale Orcinus cetorhinensis, which may have been a pack predator and targeted prey larger than itself. Yet this inference is disputed, and it was probably a generalist predator rather than a marine mammal specialist. Megalodon may have subjected contemporaneous white sharks to competitive exclusion, as the fossil records indicate that other shark species avoided regions it inhabited by mainly keeping to the colder waters of the time. In areas where their ranges seem to have overlapped, like in Pliocene Baja California, it is possible that Megalodon and the great white shark occupied the area at different times of the year while following different migratory prey. Megalodon probably also had a tendency for cannibalism, much like contemporary sharks. However, the reign of Megalodon would eventually come to an end. What was the source of this decline? What led to its extinction? The Earth experienced a number of changes during the time period Megalodon existed, which affected marine life. A cooling trend starting in the Oligocene 35 million years ago ultimately led to glaciation at the poles. Geological events changed currents and precipitation. Among these were the closure of the Central American Seaway and changes in the Tethys Ocean, contributing to the cooling of the oceans. The stalling of the Gulf Stream prevented nutrient-rich water from reaching major marine ecosystems, which may have negatively affected its food sources. The largest fluctuation of sea levels in the Cenozoic era occurred in the Pliocene, between around 5 million to 12,000 years ago, due to the expansion of glaciers at the poles, which negatively impacted coastal environments, and may have contributed to its extinction along with those of several other marine mammal megafaunal species. These oceanographic changes, in particular the sea level drops, may have restricted many of the suitable shallow warm water nursery sites for Megalodon, hindering reproduction. Nursery sites are essential for the survival of many shark species, in part because they protect juveniles from predation. As its range did not apparently extend into colder waters, Megalodon may not have been able to retain a significant amount of metabolic heat, so its range was restricted to shrinking warmer waters. Fossil evidence confirms the absence of Megalodon in regions around the world where water temperatures had significantly declined during the Pliocene. Nonetheless, an analysis of the distribution of Megalodon over time suggests that temperature change did not play a direct role in its extinction. Its distribution during the Miocene and Pliocene did not correlate with warming and cooling trends. While abundance and distribution declined during the Pliocene, Megalodon did show a capacity to inhabit colder latitudes. It was found in locations with a mean temperature ranging from 54 to 81 degrees Fahrenheit, or 12 to 27 degrees Celsius, with a total range of 34 to 91 degrees Fahrenheit, or 1 to 33 degrees Celsius, indicating that the global extent of suitable habitat should not have been greatly affected by the temperature changes that occurred. This is consistent with evidence that it was a mesotherm. marine mammals attained their greatest diversity during the Miocene, as with baleen whales, with over 20 recognized Miocene genera in comparison to only 6 extant genera. Such diversity presented an ideal setting to support a superpredator like Megalodon. By the end of the Miocene, many species of mysticetes had gone extinct. Surviving species may have been faster swimmers and thus more elusive prey. Moreover, after the closure of the Central American Seaway, tropical whales decreased in diversity and abundance. The extinction of Megalodon correlates with the decline of many small mysticete lineages, and it is possible that it was quite dependent on them as a food source. Additionally, a marine megafauna extinction during the Pliocene was discovered to have eliminated 36% of all large marine species, including 55% of marine mammals, 35% of seabirds, 9% of sharks, and 43% of sea turtles. The extinction was selective for endotherms and mesotherms relative to poikilotherms, implying causation by a decreased food supply, and therefore consistent with Megalodon being mesothermic. Megalodon may have been too large to sustain itself on the declining marine food resources. The cooling of the oceans during the Pliocene might have restricted the access of Megalodon to the polar regions, depriving it of the large whales which had migrated there. Competition from other predators of marine mammals like macropredatory sperm whales, which appeared in the Miocene, and killer whales and great white sharks in the Pliocene, may have also contributed to the decline and extinction of Megalodon. There is fossil evidence that shows predator-prey interaction between Megalodon and delphinids as exhibited by Megalodon tooth marks on delphinid bones. Fossil records indicate that the new whale-eating cetaceans commonly occurred at high latitudes during the Pliocene, indicating that they could cope with the increasingly prevalent cold water temperatures, but they also occurred in the tropics like Orcinus in South Africa. The largest macropredatory sperm whales like Leviathan are best known from the Miocene, yet persisted into the Pliocene, while others like Hoplocetus and Scaldocetus survived until the early Pleistocene. They may have occupied a niche similar to that of orcas before eventually being replaced by them. The extinction of Megalodon sets the stage for further changes in marine communities. The average body size of baleen whales increased significantly after its disappearance, although possibly due to other climate-related causes. Conversely, the increase in baleen whale size may have contributed to the extinction of Megalodon, as they may have preferred to go after smaller whales, with bite marks on large whale species possibly attributed to scavenging sharks. Megalodon may have simply become co-extinct with smaller whale species like Piscobalaena nana. The extinction of Megalodon had a positive impact on other apex predators of the time, like the great white shark, in some cases spreading the region where Megalodon became absent. A 2019 study looking at Megalodon teeth from the North Pacific suggested that it died out much earlier, about 4 to 3.6 million years ago, before typical prey atoms went extinct, due to both climate change and resultant range fragmentation, as well as competition from the great white. Let us now explore its appearances in popular culture. Megalodon has been portrayed in an array of works of fiction, including films and novels, and continues to be a popular subject for fiction involving sea monsters. 3 individual Megalodon, 2 adults and 1 juvenile, were portrayed in BBC's 2003 TV documentary series, Sea Monsters, where it is defined as a hazard of the era. The History Channel's Jurassic Fight Club portrays a Megalodon attacking a Brigmophis-eater sperm whale in Japan. Several films depict Megalodon like Shark Attack 3, Megalodon, and the Mega Shark series, for instance Mega Shark vs Giant Octopus, and Mega Shark vs Crocosaurus. The shark appears in the 2017 video game Ark: Survival Evolved, with a set of highly fictitious and exaggerated traits and coloration. Some stories, like Jim Shepard's Tedford and the Megalodon, portray a rediscovery of the shark. Steve Alten's Meg, a Novel of Deep Terror, portrays a shark having preyed on dinosaurs, with its prologue and cover artwork depicting Megalodon killing a Tyrannosaurus in the sea. This is impossible and inaccurate, as dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago during the KPG mass extinction, roughly 40 million years prior to the rise of Megalodon. The sequels to the book also star Megalodon, such as The Trench, Primal Waters, Hell's Aquarium, Night Stalkers, Generations, and Origins. And there is also a film adaptation entitled The Meg, released on August 10, 2018. This depiction is similar to Jaws in that it portrays sharks as hyper-aggressive human-killing machines, and is also reminiscent of Jurassic Park's depiction of dinosaurs. Nonetheless, these depictions are exaggerated and contain inaccuracies in that they depict sharks as monsters rather than animals. This leads to greater profits and revenue, but negatively impacts shark populations and leads to exploitation due to mass misinformation and unfavorable public perception. Animal Planet's pseudo-documentary Mermaids: The Body Found included an encounter 1.6 million years ago between a pod of mermaids and a megalodon. Later, in August 2013, the Discovery Channel opened its annual Shark Week series with another film for television, Megalodon: The Monster Shark Lives, a controversial docufiction about the creature that presented alleged evidence in order to suggest that Megalodon was still alive. These programs received criticism for being completely fictional. For instance, all of the supposed scientists were in fact paid actors. The show includes numerous unfounded and inaccurate claims. In 2014, Discovery re-aired The Monster Shark Lives, along with a new 1-hour program, Megalodon: The New Evidence, and an additional fictionalized program entitled Shark of Darkness: Wrath of Submarine, resulting in further backlash from media sources and the scientific community. The claims that Megalodon could remain elusive in the depths, similar to the megamouth shark, which was discovered in 1976, are unlikely, as the shark lived in warm coastal waters and probably could not survive in the cold and nutrient-poor deep-sea environment. Megalodon teeth are the state fossil of North Carolina. Megalodon lived roughly 23 to 3.6 million years ago during the Early Miocene to Pliocene. Despite being compared to the great white shark, the family Otodontidae, to which Megalodon belongs, diverged from the great white shark during the early Cretaceous. One of the largest and most powerful predators to have ever lived, Megalodon's maximum length ranged between 46 to 67 feet, or 14 to 20.3 meters, weighing between 53 short tons or 48 metric tons in a 52-foot or 16-meter long Megalodon to a gargantuan 114 short tons or 103 metric tons in a 67-foot or 20.3 meter long shark, with a bite force up to 108,500 to 182,200 newtons, or 24,400 to 41,000 pounds. Megalodon would have been a bone-crushing nightmare. It would have further intensified the bite while shaking sideways when feeding. As one of the top predators of its ecosystem, and one that had a widespread distribution during its day, it probably tackled whales, seals, sea turtles, and other large prey. its mere presence would have had a major impact on the structure of marine communities. With such powerful jaws, it probably used them to break through the chest cavity and punctured the lungs and heart of its prey, leading to a quick death. A huge prehistoric beast, a cosmopolitan giant, and an ancient nightmare. Megalodon. Colossal, heavy, bone-crushing, aggressive, fast, and a terrifying apex predator that dominated the oceans millions of years ago. And with that, thank you so much for joining me in this extensive episode of Prehistoric Beast on the gigantic and captivating Megalodon. As always, thank you so much for watching. This is Enchiridion. See you next time.